Good morning. My name's Doug Valesky, and I'm the CFO for the state of Montana Information Technology Services Division. So I have the accounting, auditing. I have the business office, so I have IT service management and the BRMs. And then also for our acquisition, I have all the contracts management, asset management, purchasing. So just a few things. So I'm here to talk a little bit about the service costing and investment-based budgeting. I apologize, there's some things that that Dean talked about that I'm going to kind of repeat, but I'll tell you about our experience and what we did. Currently, just a little background about ITSD. We are currently a decentralized IT for the state of Montana. Agencies there's a lot of agencies that have their own data centers. They smaller ones than what we have. We are moving forward to decentralization or to centralization. We currently, back about 4 years ago, we built 2 brand new data centers. We have one in Helena, and then we also have one that we used for our co-location and redundant site for disaster recovery that is in Miles City, which is in the way eastern part of the state. We do chargeback, and one of the things that we did, or that we're trying to do it right now, and it's working, is we'll build and they will come. And so we're showing a lot of benefits and cost benefits, and obviously all the things for security-wise and everything where it's making sense for agencies to move in. So that is happening. Currently, our customer base, we do service for all other state agencies, our university systems. We do local governments, cities and counties. We do have a few private entities that we have contracts with. We can't compete with private entities by law, but we can if we have like our e-commerce contract and stuff like that. So contractually we can offer services to private entities. And then the other one that I don't have up there are other states. We currently have a contract with the state of Oregon. We do all their disaster recovery and backup is in our data centers. We're working with North Dakota and a couple other states that are also very interested in that. We have about a $100 million budget, so I know it's a lot smaller than everybody else probably in here. We have 210 employees, approximately, and our funding sources come from a variety of places, from our proprietary funds, general fund, federal funds, state special revenue funds. And like I mentioned before, we do chargebacks, and the agencies it's not mandatory for them to use our services, except for a statewide network. For security, et cetera, all agencies are required to use our network. So what we had in the past as far as our budgeting and chargeback system and rate setting went was we just had a homegrown budgeting system. You know, at the time, we thought it was pretty advanced. We did our own, we did the traditional budgeting like Dean mentioned, but we did a lot of allocations out and forecasted our spending by expense, but we did a lot of allocating out to agencies with internaling back and forth to all the different bureaus, and which we thought was a pretty advanced way of doing things at the time. And we might have been successful at getting all the budgets which set our spending limits, but these budgets weren't very good at proper alignment of the state resources. So what were some of the issues that we had? As Dean said, I have to get up in front of the legislature and I have to talk about the state IT budget. And before I started moving into this area of full cost, I was always nervous every time I had to get up in front of the legislature. I'm still nervous when I get up in front of the legislature, but I was very unsure because I never knew what they were going to ask me, and I didn't have all the answers. I knew we had a budget, I knew what we were asking for, but to really dig down in the weeds, it was just, I didn't know if I'd have all the answers for that. So anyway, one year during the legislature, they wanted to see. I remember a few years back, everything was about transparency, and they wanted more details. They wanted to know exactly what was included in rates, and I promised them that I would start looking for a different way of handling things. Our clients, our customers, state agencies, they also wanted to know, okay, what are we getting for this? We had a lot of things that, we're charging you so much for example, for desktop. Well, what's all included in that? You know, we have our Microsoft suite, but they just get adding more and more stuff, thinking that that's included in that allocation rate. On the executive side, for the Office of Budget and Program Planning, they wanted better financial planning and tying in better with the agency needs. And us as the executives, we also needed more information. It was hard to do what we were doing as far as making investment decisions. We wanted better definition of exactly what services that we were offering, and also being able to align ourselves better with this statewide strategic planning. We also had difficulty meeting customer needs with our current resources. The demand was to do more with less. We charged them a set amount for things. Here's an allocation for the year, and they said, well, what's all included in that? We want more, or we don't need all of that. And it wasn't really clear exactly what was all included in there. You know, budgeting was tight, and we became a target. We were easy to, make, the legislature or the budget office just making arbitrary cuts to our budget, without cutting our expenses. You still offer the same level of service that everybody needs, but at a reduced cost. And then we also, a lot of times we hear a lot about our rates were too high, and they were. We had a lot of internal subsidization in there. We had things that were mandated to do by state law. We have to follow what's called the META Act, the Montana Information Technology Act, which is basically sets the rules and guidelines for the state CIO and what he's all responsible for. And he's very expensive. And then other things that we do that's just for the good of all for the state. For example, like our state telephone operators, they sit there and answer phones all day. We don't charge that out by who's making the phone calls and to what agencies or anything. So, but all that stuff was just on top of all of our rates. We really didn't have any, and we also had a lot of delays in bringing up new services. A lot of times the customer would come to us and say, "Hey, we need this. We need to start, doing this. Can you provide it for us?" Well, it took us a while to figure out, okay, what's it really going to cost the state to do that? What kind of equipment's going to need it? How do we allocate costs? What's it going to mean for our other services, et cetera? And so that took some time. We had no ownership by the managers. There was nobody that was truly responsible for their services that they were providing. They could provide the service at any cost. That's not their problem. That's finance's problem to figure out how to pay for it. Our customers wanted, like I said before, more without paying, and they really wanted to know what they were getting in their allocations, what that was for. Now, it sounds like Montana had a lot of problems, and at the time, we did have some. What I did is I went looking for a better way of, like I promised the legislature that I'd looking at a better way for doing things, so I really put myself on the spot. I had to deliver. So I went looking for a better way, looked at other states. I looked at other state local governments because really a lot of the state local governments are about the same size as of what Montana's budgets were in IT. So looked at what they were doing. I researched other budgeting software, and what I was finding out that a lot of the things that we were currently doing, that's what they were offering too at the time. And so I was looking for something different, but I didn't really know exactly what I was looking for. So I attended a presentation. I don't know if anybody's familiar with the IT Financial Management Association. I went to one of their conferences and actually sat in on a presentation on full cost maturity model. With kind of like the elephant in the room. With ours truly, Dean Meyer was the one that gave that presentation, and I talked to Dean afterwards, and he gave me he sold me, I'm sure, a book that he had at the time that was a full cost methodology, and I went back, and on my way back to Montana, I was flying back, I read that, and it listed all the issues and problems that this could fix, and it was like, wow, this is what we have. This is the problems that we're having right now, and I'd really like to know more about it. So I was talking to Dean for a while, for quite a while about it, and learning more about it, and basically what full cost model is, and right now what ITSD did after we've implemented it, we labeled it and gave it our own branding as the financial transparency model. And the legislature really liked that because, you know, again, transparency is the go-to word right now. So what FTM is, it's a standard metric of an organization's capability to plan the full cost of its products and services. And I know Dean talked about that planning, but that's the important part and that's the part that I felt we were missing, was that planning for the full cost of its products and services. And then these costs are applied to both the budgets and for cost recovery, all of our rates. When I went back to Montana, and after I talked to Dean, I did talk to the other executives about what I think this could do and how it would help us. And we actually had a phone conference call with Dean. He wanted us to fly him to Montana, but we didn't do that. So, talked about how we would go about doing this, and decided that that is what we're going to do. And what was nice about it is it became a real high priority. Of course, nobody ever has time to do anything, but the team was willing to make that time. And after talking with, you know, the other staff and their staff, you know, there wasn't any pushback, and everybody knew the benefits that this would create. And I was very fortunate in how well everybody made this a priority and worked with it. So what were our goals? We wanted justifiable unit costs, or the rates, to our budget. We wanted to know the impacts of budget cuts. That happens to us every session, as Dean was talking about. The legislature or a budget office, before it even got to the legislature, would just say, you know, IT, you need to cut your costs. You, just cut them by 5, 7, 8, 10%. And we'd have to do that, and without cutting the expectations. And so it made things very difficult. So we wanted to know what those impacts would be when we were required to budget cuts. Customer relationships, we really wanted to improve that. That was an area that I had recently taken over at that time, the BRMs, and listening to what their problems and issues and concerns were, and what we could do to help our relationships with our customers. And the big thing was our costs and our rates and what were the services they were getting. We did have a service catalog, but it wasn't a very detailed service catalog. We wanted something that would show more details to it. And we wanted to find different sources for our capital ventures, and how to make bigger investments on those things that we needed to do. And then finding things, again, like I mentioned, for the enterprise good, for, things that were legislatively mandated for us, or what we, for the whole state. So we basically had to budget for products and services of this investment-based budgeting, and not just plan for what our spend was or what we used in history. We wanted to know exactly what is it costing to do the true cost for IT. So really, this investment-based budgeting, it's pretty straightforward in concept. It begins with a business plan that forecasts and the products and services that ITSD is planning on selling in the upcoming year. We brought Dean in to help us out with a restructure. Like I said before, the executive decided to make this a real priority, so we looked at it as a whole. We looked at our whole organizational structure. We lined up the different lines of services, or lines of business, and a certain manager might have 2, 3 different lines of business, but there was a manager that was responsible for that. And then the manager, it was real crucial that they understood what was going on, and they needed to identify what services they provided. Not what we have been doing in the past, but really look at what was happening in their area, what are they providing, and identify those and be accountable for it. They needed to know what is it costing them, how can they market it, who is our customers, what can we do to help them out and make things better. We work really closely with our BRMs and all the agencies. We actually sit down with every single customer that we have and sit down with our BRMs, go over what our services are, our service catalog, and then also what their needs and wants are. Are we offering the services that they need? Are they looking for something else? Can we do it? And so basically, the customer is making the decision. So we sit down with them and we come up with a business plan for each of our customers for an effective budget that forecasts the full cost of those products and services. So our first iteration of FTM took us about 9 months. You know, the first year it was time consuming. I won't lie, it wasn't really easy, but it took a lot of people's time to get things in. But after that, year after year, now it's getting easier and easier. It's going to be an ongoing process. We're constantly making things better. We're improving things. There's things that we realize more we can do with this system or more with this methodology, and so that's been extremely helpful. We now have a fully defined service catalog, and we're right now working on phase 2, which we're doing an actionable catalog where, you know, it's all online, where agencies can go in and order services right online. Our price lists now are fair, defensible, and understood, and you know, our pricing is a lot more comparable to outsourcing. I'm sure most people here are very familiar with federal OMB A87. We have to be very compliant with A87 and making sure that we're charging all funding groups, you know, particularly the federal funds, the same way that we're charging everyone else. So one of the things that, or not overcharging, not making too much. We no longer have any subsidizations between services, and we have credibility. As Dean had mentioned, allocate all of our expenses out by the different deliverables, all of our different rates, products, and services. And again, we're talking about full costs. We're not only talking about direct costs, we're talking also about the fair share of all the indirect costs. So we budget for what we sell and not just for what we spend. But we still have those expense codes because that is a requirement that we need for our budgeting purposes and for the, you know, throughout the whole budgeting process. So we still have both. We did do an educational thing. You know, internally to the rest of our staff, you know, we had several meetings to the rest of our internal staff, talked to them about everything that we were doing, why we were doing it, you know, what the benefits were going to be. I also scheduled meetings with all the customers, all of our agencies, and there's about 38 agencies, and, you know, met with every one of them individually when they brought all their people in there and sat down and had these town hall meetings to explain what we were doing and how it would benefit them and what we're hoping to obtain from that. You know, I knew the more buy-in I got for this, the easier it would be going down the road, and so that's what I did. I met with the Office of Budget and Program Planning, talked to them about it. They have a set amount of funding that comes from the state taxpayers to provide all the services that the citizens of Montana need. And so part of that is now, as far as showing that value, or this is just one way to properly align all those resources needed to fund IT, and the Budget Office realizes that. And they really understand and trust in what they're getting from us and what the services, the value that the state of Montana is getting. So that's been really nice to have their support. We went to the Legislative Financial Division, and they're the ones that I really needed their buy-in from because they're the ones that talk to the legislature when they're in town. And if I could get their buy-in and understand what they were doing, that would help me. So by the time we get to the legislature, everybody is pretty much informed of what's going on. And then the audit division, you know, we wanted to make sure we were covering all of our bases on there. So as far as the results, we didn't have any reductions in services. We had real documented and understandable budgets and credible and defensible rates. As far as legislative services, their reaction, you know, we have credibility for transparency. It's auditable, and we've had several audits done on this stuff, and no issues with that. And then the legislature, I got up that first year after I promised them that they were, and boy, they remember everything. And first thing they asked is, what did you find out, you know? And so what was really nice is the legislative analysts were all right there and backing me up, and they gave us full approval with no I didn't have any questions. I kind of felt kind of silly standing up there, but it was nice. So the transparency paid off. We did have an increased budget that first year, and it was approved. And when we did this, that's a time when, you know, the states were in dire need and really hurting. And we were probably, I believe, the only agency that had any kind of an increase whatsoever. Everybody else was cut. The first year we did this, you know, when everything came out, you know, for true transparency, there were winners and losers. We found out that a lot of the large applications, the large agencies were really, you know, supplementing the small ones. They weren't, and you know, really it's the small ones that we spend a lot of our time with, you know, making sure everything is running for them. So we had a lot of help from the budget office and legislative services that they made them whole that first year. They made sure those small agencies were budgeted the first year. They understood this, and now we don't have those issues anymore. So what were the reactions been from our agencies? So our customers now, they understand all the value that we deliver. They understand our costs. We have a lot better communications. And they have to make those decisions, those tough decisions. They know whatever they buy from us, they're going to have to pay for. You know, our budgets define what's funded and what's not. There's not those questions in there anymore from our customers. They know what they're getting. They understand it and what's all included and what's not, and they know they have to pay for what they use. We are a true chargeback, and we charge back on rates by actual utilization. So they plan on that, and they realize that, and they work with us on it. Our customers, our clients, they understand now what their true costs are and the value of the services that they're getting. They defend our budgets and projects and services. You know, during the session before, it was different agencies would get up in front of the legislature and talk about, you need to increase our budget because IT is going up. They're charging us more. Their rates are too high. And we were always the bad guys. Not anymore. Now we go in there together and we defend each other's budgets. They know we need to, you know, they know exactly what we're asking for, and it's based on what their needs are. So. We've been through 3 iterations of this with the legislature, and it's all been very positive. One of the things that we weren't expecting was that the way we use our financial transparency model right now is really the center, the heart of our organization. Everything we do is kind of based around it. We have now, and these are the things that we keep improving year from year now, is we have a lot of quality financial data with meaningful reports that we know exactly which of our services aren't, you know, we're not making the revenues on. We know which agencies aren't doing it. And if they're going over budget, we can talk about it and we can adjust for that. And, you know, and a lot of times, you know, with the budget office for their case, if something happens in mid-year where they are, they're bringing up a new service or something that wasn't planned for or was mandated that they had to do and was never planned for in their budgets, they can go to the budget office and get excess funding for that. And another real big thing that was major cost savings for us is this behavioral modifications. You know, once we started charging agencies for like their storage and archives and stuff like that in detail, they're looking at this stuff and they have all this information. We're like, what is that? Why are we, you know, and they've been charged for that for years. It's something they asked for years ago, and they're no longer needed or use it, or there's been jobs running, batch jobs that have been running, or that they never looked at, and we were able to clean up a lot. Our customer relations has really improved. We working with the BRMs, meeting with all of our customers, talking to them about their needs and what we can do for them or what they're looking for, and making it that they have ownership. They have the control of what they need from us or want to buy from us. So that's really been helpful. We get comments from that all the time, and we're finding so many more benefits from that. You know, just they're willing to talk to us more. Before, they kind of try to keep things quiet from us. You know, well, let's don't tell ITSD about this, and we're going to move in this direction. Now we're getting a lot more interactive involvement with all our customers, and that's been really good. And then as far as just, reactions for internally, it's been real positive. And what's been nice is all the budget unit managers or the service providers that we have in the IT, they really take ownership of what they're doing. They know what their service is. They're excited to get financial reports to look at what they're doing. Where's their revenues coming in? Who's meeting them? Which agencies aren't. We have improved IT investment decisions. We work on, the statewide strategic planning. This is all part of the process that goes with our statewide strategic planning with all the agencies. Exactly what kind of investments are we going to be making, and what are they going to need? So it's become a real crucial part for that too. The budget provides us a lot more information on making decisions, for the executives and improving IT investment decisions. We look at our asset management differently now. We're planning out better. We know exactly what's included in all those assets for those next 3 years that we're planning on going out. You know how IT is. There's always new things coming up. And so one of the benefits that we have now is we can do this real easily. If a customer comes to us and say, we need this new service. You don't offer it. Could you do it for us? It's really easy for us to go into our model and run some numbers and come up with a rate that's defensible and what it's going to cost them. Our whole culture changed internally too. I mean, we developed a real culture of entrepreneurship, which has been great. And then the teamwork. These different service providers, they work together to make sure that each other are really successful. I mean, there's a lot of internal buybacks internally throughout this methodology, and they need to make sure that they're going to what they need from the other service providers is going to be there, so they depend on them. So that's been really good too. This also comes up with their individual budgets, so they're really on track with that. It's no longer a financial problem, it's their problem. They take ownership of that. So I really don't do much anymore. So, it helped a lot of their careers too. I mean, some of these people, these managers, have been really excited about doing these things. There's been promotions internally for that. And, we know this is an ongoing process. This is something we do not just every 2 years. We're constantly looking at things. We're constantly looking at our rates. The meeting with their customers, finding out, if we're meeting their needs, and it's been going well. So that's my story. And if there's any questions, yes. Okay, so how many products or services do we offer? Well, we basically have about 38 or so different categories, but in all, we have about 180 different rates. And a lot of those are, for like network, for example. That'll be one of our categories, but we have several different rates in our network area based off where the location is, what it's going to cost for those things. So we have about 170, 180 different rates. So what tool are we using to run this model? We're using the full cost tool that Dean has. What's the driver for centralizing IT? Biggest thing is efficiencies. For example, our governor right now, he's big on effective and efficient government. That's what he's pushing for. And economies of scale, getting things done. The more people we bring, or the more customers we bring on to a service, the cheaper our rates go down. Obviously, we have to consider capital investments and stuff if we need more infrastructure to handle them. But in our area, it's a financial reason. It's a lot cheaper for the agencies to use our services. They're realizing that. I mentioned at the very beginning that we built those data centers with the hope that we'll build it and they'll come. Our CIO, through that Montana Information Technology Act, he has the authority to mandate agencies to move over to us, can take over assets, can do whatever he wants. He's got a lot of power, but we're not doing that. Agencies are just slowly moving in. And, and it helps when, like, our, biggest client, Health and Human Services, had a security breach, and some of their servers were not in our data center. They're all in there now. They came running. So it's, that's another big thing, security. It's all about security right now too. And so as far as a lot of the servers and things that are running on the network, they're trying to get as much as they possibly can consolidated into our data center to help with that. So for financial reasons and security, I'd say are two major reasons for that. Does that help? Okay. Anybody else? All right. Well, thank you.